G'day, this is Kareem Shamlal here at the Toe to Toe Martial Arts Academy. Welcome you to another episode of Does It Matter. Today I'm going to be talking about sparring. It's a fraught subject, and it's a subject that there are a plethora of opinions on. Many of them valuable, many of them not so valuable. Sparring can be comprised, from what my experience is, into two separate categories. There is training sparring, sparring where one builds your skills. You build your repertoire of techniques, of combinations, you grow what you have. And that requires a very different approach to the other form of sparring, which is testing sparring, where you enhance the resistance, you enhance the power, the speed, the competitive aspect of sparring to the point where it's not far off a fight, where it can be a competitive light sparring to competitive heavy sparring. And you're really testing some of these techniques. People are not letting you do them at all. That's test sparring. You're testing your cardio under stress, you're testing your emotions, you're testing your technique, you're testing your being as a fighter, your capacity and competency under enormous adversity. But most sparring isn't test sparring. If you test spar all the time, which some people do, yes, it will make you very tough. Yes, it will acclimatise you more quickly to the adversity of physical combat. It'll also do a lot more damage. You'll get more injured, your chances of brain injury, concussions and other injuries are considerably higher, okay? The other thing that only test sparring or hard sparring does is it tends to cement a fighter into the safest possible route. So they will fight not only one particular way, they'll fight a particular way with a very tall, lanky fighter, okay? And then they'll shut that down. Their approach will become the same for everyone. Whatever is the safest possible route, whether you're tall, short, long, fast, slow, ponderous, whatever, it doesn't matter. They will find the safest possible route, build a wall, be as conservative as possible, and take no significant risks, and exchange power for power. And that seems to be, especially in Muay Thai, that's an exceedingly common scenario, particularly amongst Western Thai boxers, more so than Thai boxers. And there's reasons for that, which we'll go into later. Primarily though, test sparring shuts you down. If it's all you do, or even 50% or more of what you do, you are losing many valuable hours per week to refine your skills. Okay, I've had people say to me, but Kareem, you know, if I don't refine my skills, if I keep refining my skills, but they don't work I don't test them under pressure, how to know they'll work? Well, if someone's hitting you really hard, you need to experience that periodically to understand what that's like. You don't need to experience it constantly. In fact, constant experience of punishing brutality is more likely to result in PTSD than making you a better fighter. It's more likely to result, at the very least, in you being more conservative, more safety conscious, more of a safety mouse than a warrior, okay? It's going to batter you into a strong, thick, defensive shield where all you're going to do is fight from the most conservative position to exhibit. And it's very efficient. There's a certain amount of ergonomic efficiency in the way that fights there, but it lacks imagination. It lacks a capacity to adapt to different circumstances, different types of fighting styles. It lacks the ability to deal with someone who might be athletically and physically your superior. And you will encounter that, everyone does. Someone who's far taller than you, someone who's much faster or stronger than you. You need to be able to make adjustments. If you have fought one way, you have found a conservative way to fight, and that has come through the rigor and the fire, the forge of battering the shit out of yourself every time you spar, you will not have the tools, you will not develop the tools to deal with different fighters and different kinds of situations. And you see this happen a lot in the fight game. A guy is very successful, he's on a win streak, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights even, And then he encounters someone who's who's not off the shelf, someone who's customized, someone who's a little different. And it doesn't have to be a huge difference, it can be a small difference, but a difference that he or she cannot adapt to. And as a result, they lose. Sometimes they even get hurt, okay? So there are risks in the long run, but the short-term benefits of battering yourself away at sparring, doing this hard test sparring, it gives people a false reassurance that they're doing well. I have sparred light most of my life. I've done a fair bit of hard sparring too. There were clubs I was at where that was the culture. But even there, I tried not to engage in an excess of power, because when I did, I found that my entire style shrank down. I found that I became less and less willing to use techniques that could be highly effective, because I'd get hurt in sparring over and over again trying to use them. And as a result, being the incredibly stubborn person I am, I persisted. I took the beatings, I took the hidings, and I worked out how to use high kicks, spinning kicks, how to use jump kicks, how to use all manner of weird and strange boxing techniques that I drew from my eskrima, my anis, my kali, and my karate. Draw different techniques from different martial arts and push them into my Thai boxing and later my MMA. And I made it work, but it cost me. It cost me. I sustained some fairly severe injuries. And I got beaten up a lot in sparring. So I learned from that when I was able to spar with people who just wanted to spar light to moderately, and we could spar relatively safely, but at full speed, people who had control. And that's the other thing you don't ever develop when you test spar. You never learn to control yourself. When you spar with a beginner and they're going a little too hard, or they're a bit frantic, a bit nervous, a bit anxious, and they're hitting a bit too hard unintentionally, you have no ability to control yourself. You're just going to respond and start thumping them. Control is important, and you only learn that through training spars, light sparring. So again, most of the sparring, in my opinion, should be 90% of it should be training spar, light to moderate. Okay, very light to the head still, moderate to the body, moderate to the legs. We all have to go to work the next day, most of us, and we have to do other things. There's absolutely no point while you're learning in becoming severely damaged. Every now and then, we have shark tanks, which are more stamina orientation. You'll do 6 3-minute rounds with a fresh opponent every round. Sometimes we do shark tanks where you do 15 minutes non-stop, 1 minute with a fresh opponent every round. Okay, so we have different forms of shark tanks here. We also have bullfights for those people who don't want to do a big promo and go in front of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people and fight. They don't want to do a big show, but they'd like to have a real fight. So they can fight someone in the club, or we'll try and organise someone else from another club, fully geared up, just a few people there, a doctor and our sports rec guy, and then they have a go. They have a good fight. They have a good fight. They've got medical supervision. These are good ways of testing yourself periodically. These are good ways of seeing how you handle, how you stack up when you've got fresh opponents every round, how you stack up when another guy's actually coming to knock you out. You've got headgear, you've got your shin guards on, you've got everything on, but still, it's going to be tough. It's not the same as a spar, even a hard spar. These are good ways of testing yourself. But in between that, sparring, because of its incredible capacity to inflict injury, has to be controlled. And because you're sparring with people who have this level, as opposed to people who might be way up here and advanced pro fighters, you've got such a broad continuum of people of varying skill levels. You've got to be able to control yourself, and you don't learn that by hard sparring. Quite the opposite. People who hard spar all the time are the worst people to train with often. They don't know how to go light. They're terrible to drill with. You're trying to learn things with them. Doing jiu-jitsu or wrestling with them is problematic. They can't relax. They're stiff as boards. It's not nice, and it's not useful. It doesn't help us become better fighters. So, if I could say one thing about sparring, I would say divide it into 2 separate categories: testing and training. 90% or more should be training, and that's light sparring. Always lightish to the head and light to moderate to the body and legs. Okay? When it comes to the grapple, it's good to grapple light sometimes. I feel that good grappling, particularly in clinch work, should be a combination of hard and soft. If you're always going hard, you tend to shut each other down and it tends to become predictable. If you go soft, you'll get steamrolled, okay? So it has to be a measure of being able to relax when you can relax, have a little break when you need a break, create a sense of safety for that person before you explode on them. Those kinds of things, the hard and the soft, are useful both tactically and for safety's sake. Great idea, okay? Conservation of energy, all those things. But when it comes to striking, there's an even greater need for control, for developing methodologies of control, being able to pull your punches and pull your kicks and not deliver full power because you can, okay? Every now and then, slap on the gear, hit each other hard, see what happens. What will often happen is people will get dropped, people will get winded, people will get knocked out on occasion too. And you have to be prepared for that. In sparring, if someone's knocked out here, it's a flash knockout, no signs of any concussion, I like to still give them a week off sparring, no more sparring for the rest of the week. Even if there was no loss of consciousness, no signs of any other form of brain damage or swelling, then I'm pretty happy for that person to still have a week off. If they lost consciousness, even for a couple of seconds, 2, 3, 4 seconds, they were clearly a little foggy when they came out of it. They weren't 100%, but they shook it off fairly quickly. Okay, I like them to, even if they don't have headaches, but they often do once they've suffered symptoms that severe, they often have headaches and so on afterwards. But even if they don't, I like to give them 3 weeks off minimum, because they almost certainly have a very mild concussion. If they're out for any longer, if they suffered headaches almost immediately, if they were groggy, if they had memory lapses, we had a guy get dropped here not long ago. We were sparring, I kicked him in the head, he fell down. It wasn't a hard kick, but he ducked into it. And he couldn't remember